We all want to experience healthy love and be the best version of ourselves in relationships. And it's especially hard when you find yourself exiting something that has felt painful, not knowing where you went wrong, how you stayed for so long, and why you feel so unlike yourself anymore. Which is why I'm so passionate about my group coaching program, Becoming, designed to help you work through the mindfuck of confusing relationships alongside women who get it so that you can rewire to secure, mature, healthy relationships together. This is your time to step outside of the self-help books and be held as you actually become the woman who not only can attract the emotionally available man who's doing his own work, but actually hold that healthy love because you have the tools to navigate it healthfully. This work is for you to call in that mature partnership and family that is waiting on the other side. Enrollment is happening now in January, and there are 4 spaces available. So go to briewolta.com/becoming to submit your interest form today. Welcome to this episode of Lucid Living with Bree. Learn to live and love awake. I am your host, Bree Wolta, and today I am with one of my incredible clients, Silvana Dargle, who is also now a relationship and dating coach. And we are going to hear all about her journey to how she has gotten to where she is. Silvana, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. It's my
Yes,
first time on a podcast.
feeling a little bit of the podcast jitters.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've had several people who, if it's not their first podcast, it's their first time sharing their story. And it's something that I really honor and admire because I the first time that I spoke out about my story, I know I was like sweating and shaky and just kind of a mess. So thank you. Thank you for being willing to share your journey in hopes of other women being able to
Yeah.
feel like they're not alone.
Yeah. That's why we're here, right?
That's why we're here. Yeah. So let's start with where you are now. Tell me a little bit about your passion for what you're doing with your coaching and how it looks in your life right now.
So obviously this came from all my healing, but I got really passionate about like healing from heartbreak because I realized like that's the part I have been skipping in my entire life, like the healing, the truly healing part. And then I used to hate dating. And now it's like I've been rediscovering dating and it's so much fun for me. It has its ups and downs, but I've realized like so many of us could use some help in that and not like in these, oh, text him this message or do this message. No, like genuine, real life examples of what really is happening. It's not the guy has to be constantly perfect or you have to play a game. It's the reality of when you meet someone, you're dating and you're creating a connection, what's really happening there and the conversations that start to come up. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like I'm loving that part. I'm learning so much about that part and I want to share and I want to help other women to go through that with like a better mindset rather than rules and not really knowing how to navigate it because nothing is cookie cutter, you know?
Yes. Yes. And especially dating after a toxic relationship or an unhealthy some spectrum of unhealthy relationship is can be very terrifying and can cause a lot of anxiety of not wanting to fall back into the same thing and being
Yeah.
aware of the red flags. And some of my clients, sort of approach dating with this, they have all their guards up and
Yeah.
almost are like too, I don't even can't think of the right word, but they're not forgiving in some ways because they kind of swing to the full other end of the pendulum. So you bringing your experience of the toxic relationship that you were in and how you can start to date healthfully and then find a healthy partner, I think is so valuable. And I want everybody to hear because I know full depth of your story, but where would you like to start with letting people know about the relationship that you were in?
Um, I think we can start with tomorrow. It's my 1 year anniversary of walking out of that relationship.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
didn't know that when we scheduled this.
Either. And I was like, wait, it was on Thanksgiving. And it's like,
Oh, wow.
so So I was like, oh my God.
That's amazing.
So I was like, this is kind of like the perfect timing to do this, like full circle for
Yes.
me. And I think it would start at that point, like when I found the strength to walk out. Because I think what many people don't understand with, in my case, I barely had come to understand that I was with a narcissist. I knew my relationship was toxic, but I wasn't quite sure where I was at. And I think the really hard part that is for many people to understand, like how many tries it takes for you to get out. Like I Googled and I researched articles on how to leave a narcissist. That
Mhm.
became my life for the last month that I was with him. And I kept on making plans and they kept on falling through. But in the time I was with him, I tried to leave 4 times. And the statistics says it takes an average person 7 times to leave before they fully leave. And
Mhm.
I remember being like at the fourth time, and I was like, no, this is the time. Like every single time, I was like ready to walk out. And I think I want to start by that I want people to know, like, I get it. It's so hard. It's so hard. And it makes absolutely no sense that you would want to stay with a person that is not being respectful to you, is mistreating you, is lying to you, is calling you names, sees you cry and doesn't care that you're crying, sees you're in pain, like utter physical pain, sick pain. So I really want all women to start with that. Like, no, like I get you, I see you, and however long it takes, it's okay.
Yes. Yes. What was it that brought you back to him each time that you tried to leave?
He really, well, I don't want to be like he, like, I think my who I was like had completely been erased. My
Yeah.
entire who I was, little by little. And it was such little things that like nipped away at who I was and my strength that by the time that I did end things with him, I thought I was no one without him. And those were his words to me, that I was no one without him. And I had come to believe that. So when I finally found the strength to walk away, I remember just like I felt like, who am I? Like, who am I? I had absolutely, I did not even understand the phrase, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, who am I without him? Where do I go from here? What do I do? Like, my entire life revolved around him, on keeping him calm, on keeping him happy, on like, I was walking on eggshells and now I had nothing to do basically.
Yeah. Yeah, a
Nothing,
lot of
nothing.
space opened up. Yeah.
Yeah, I had nothing to do. Like I could do my work now, but even there, like I had not been fully showing up at my job. So I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to do at my job anymore. Like I had to completely rebuild myself. But like, but that part of like, I am no one without him. He also, one very phrase that he used was like, you will keep on finding guys that will not treat you right. I'm the only one that's ever loved you. I'm the only one that's ever treated you right. And that really, like, it was like spinning in my head over and over because, well, love bombing, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I've really had to unlearn. Like, just because the guy is texting you every day, there is bringing you flowers, is bringing you chocolates, doesn't mean they truly love you or that it's healthy or good for you.
Yes. Yes. That I swear, like these narcissistic men have like a playbook that they all have the same lines or like the same flavor of the line of like, we're soulmates. You're never gonna find anyone better. You're just gonna throw away this love. This is true love. You've just never experienced true love before. These, if you're hearing lines like this, it's manipulation.
Yeah.
And you don't know that when you're in it because gaslighting, which is what they're doing. They're trying to deny your reality. They're trying to spin you to be the villain of the story. And gaslighting is so insidious because it's based in little pieces of truth. So it's
Yeah.
not so far out there that you're like, you're fucking crazy. It's like, oh, maybe these are my patterns. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not bringing up this conversation correctly and I am causing the fight.
Yeah. And for me, it was like that. I reached a point where I was like, it was me bringing up something new every single day. And then, of course, I was like, every day we never have a good day. We never have this. And
Yeah.
then, like, there was enough factual basis of it. I was like, oh, that's true. I am the one that's bringing something up every day. I
Mhm.
am the one that's always bringing up the issues. And at the end of the day, I always ended up apologizing
Yeah.
and like crying and being like, oh my God, this is my fault. You're so right. And then he would be mad at me for days and wouldn't talk to me. So it was just this constant cycle of like, it was insanity, the way I think about it.
Yeah. The control that they have over our mind, and this happened in my relationship too. You don't know what's happening. It's like I talk about it like a spell or like the fog. You're just in it and you don't really know why you're operating the way you're operating, why you feel the way you do. And part of the intention of them is to be in control.
Yeah.
So making you think that everything your fault is like a
Yeah.
way that they can hold their control over you. And whilst like poking away at your sense of self and your confidence and who you were before him.
Yeah.
Like if you think back to before him, did you have a sense of confidence and like independence when you guys first met?
Yeah, it was like I think at the best I had ever been in my life. I had just moved countries, I was like onto this new path. And obviously with a new path comes scary moments and things. And I think that's when he like swept in and like
Yeah.
took over. And it's like, I'll hold you, I'll help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and from there it went on.
Yeah. I think one of the misconceptions that women have when they realize they're with a narcissist or have been, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm so weak. How did I let this happen? And it's like, they targeted you because you had your shit together. And maybe like you not having boundaries or being people pleasing was their way in. But typically, when we enter these relationships, we're like in a really good place
Yeah.
or we're trauma bonding with them on something that's not about our confidence level. And then in the relationship we feel this shift, this slow burn of like, I don't know who I am, I don't necessarily even like myself, I don't like, what do I do? So I'm so happy you brought light to that how hard it is to leave when not only you don't know who you are anymore, but he's telling you that nobody's going to want you.
Yeah. And so he was like always telling me no one will want me. And he would tell me like, this is what people are saying about you,
Yeah.
you know, like this. And I always remember, and it took me quite a while to get through that. And I thankfully had a very supportive family. And we're like, Silvana, anyone that knows you will know that's not true.
Yeah.
Maybe at the beginning they'll hear it, but if they get to know you, they will know that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then like a real big work came of like believing in myself and in my confidence, like being okay, I'm going to be who I am and I'm going to show up as who I am and I'm going to love myself and I'm going to be the best version of myself and the people that are meant to stay will stay. But I do remember at the beginning of working with you that I was convinced I was the narcissist.
Yeah.
Like
Well, because you were told that.
I would bring that every single session. I would bring a long list of like, these are the reasons why I am the narcissist. And then like, it was like, no. But I remember like at the beginning, I was like, no, I am the narcissist. Yes, yes, I am. I had all these like, I could write them down on a list. Like, you see here, I did this, and I did this.
Which is convenient for the narcissist to tell you that you're the narcissist, right? Or you're the toxic one. That's another thing
Yeah.
I hear a lot. Because then they don't have to take any accountability. They do these things to push you to the point where you do kind of lose your shit in some ways, whether you're yelling at him or you're, ghosting him or whatever we're doing to like, because we just can't anymore. They push us to that point. And then when we hit that, they're like, see, you're unstable. You're the crazy one. You're the toxic one.
I
It's
mean,
so fucked up.
it is like, I remember him lying and then me finding something out and he lying on top of that lie. And then it pushed me to the levels where I did things that were never me before. And now I've learned that if I ever feel the urge to do something like that, I need to walk away.
Yeah.
And it's like, I went through his phone. Like, I'm not proud of it, but I did that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've talked to many women in the same situation. And it really helps to know that everybody's like, yeah, I did that too. And I felt awful.
Yep.
But that wasn't me. And it doesn't give you peace. But in that moment, you don't know who you are. So you're just trying to keep this person in your life. And in hindsight, I'm like, what was I trying to accomplish here? Like, I know he was lying to me and he kept on lying to me. Like, was I hoping he would stop lying to me if I found the truth? Because even when I had the facts, I still wasn't walking away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's so many reasons we stay. And
Yeah.
that's why when our friends and our family are like, enough, like then leave him. If you're not happy, then leave him or stop going back. It's like they're not seeing all of the layers of your internal beliefs or how he's, helping you not have to feel certain things or whatever you're gaining from the relationship. It's a hard piece for us to wrap our head around that like we're in it because we're still gaining something too.
Yeah.
Whether it's a validation of our unhealthy belief that we don't deserve love or we don't deserve a healthy person or relationships are hard, it's like until the pain gets greater than our excuses or our fear of the unknown, we're going to stay.
Yeah. And as you said, like he really, with my belief, it was definitely like, I won't find someone,
Yeah.
like I'm 30 and I come from Latin culture. So for us, it's like 30 is like the worst. And I'm 33 actually now, but it's like 30 is like, oh my God, she isn't married by 30.
Yeah.
So that was actually something I had to work on. But he really fed into that belief, knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know. But he really was like, you will never find someone else like me. You will just go through men the way you've done your entire life, and all these things, just repeated them and repeated them. And he was very good at like building me down, and this is one part that many people, I don't think they know. And then you're like, you know what? I'm right. I am the worst person. I am awful. And then they're like, no, you're the best person I've ever met. Otherwise, I wouldn't love you. After they've told you the night before that you are this laundry list of awful things.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And that's one way that I help clients. Like if the relationship isn't making sense, it's because it's not based in real connection or real love, right? It's based in his needing control of you,
Yeah.
which is why it doesn't make any sense because he's getting control either by telling you how shit you are or how amazing you are, whatever's going to work in that moment. And to your point about like him using what you told him against you later or using it because he knows that that's a weak place for you, that is what sucks so bad about these relationships is when we enter them in the love bomb phase, we think that they're amazing and incredible and it's our soulmate and our true love and whatever twin flame, whatever else like we think it is. So we divulge everything.
Yeah.
And they use all of that later.
Every single bit. And that makes the trusting part really hard.
Yeah.
That makes the trusting part afterwards also really hard because like I trusted this, and sometimes it's not like a big secret or anything, but you told them something vulnerable about yourself or your family, and then they're using it against you.
Yeah.
And then they do that. He talks bad about everybody. So I know that at one point it would be me. Like I realize that now. And that's
Now.
something,
Yeah.
and that's something I've had to make peace with, that he probably says things about me. Some he's got receipts for, they're true. Yeah. Some things I did right. Some stuff I did do.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole story. There's more to it. There's a lot more that went down behind closed doors that were never recorded, never put on like in text message, that no one will know. And I think that's the really hard part for sometimes like friends and family who've never gone through this to understand the like the mental turmoil that's happening to a person in an abusive relationship, because it's a roller coaster of up and down, and all your energy is focused on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes it really hard, to your earlier point, to like engage in friendships or in your work or in your hobbies or what brings you joy. Like if all of your energy is going towards walking on eggshells and making sure you don't upset your partner and trying to figure out if he's lying or trying to figure out what you said wrong to start the fight, like that's a full-time fucking job.
Yeah. And even beyond that, it's not just that. Usually, if they're trying to manipulate and control you, they're pushing everybody in some way away from you.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the greatest relationship with your mother and they know about it, that today you had like like a little tiff with your mom, oh, they will like go in and use that to separate you from your mom.
Yep.
Then your siblings. Then you tell them how your friends sometimes can be like this. He'll remember that and then like use it later on. And slowly it's just you.
Mhm.
And then the few other people that he hasn't kind of taken out of your life, you're afraid to call because you've already called them 10 times crying at this point. So
Yeah.
you end up very, very alone. And I think that's where I'm very grateful for the few people that were really able to hold space and stay. And I know that's really hard for
Mhm.
people to do, and it's no one's responsibility, really. But I had a few people that really stayed. And one day I was fighting with him when I was breaking up. And we're like, okay, I'll help you. And the next day I was like, I'm fine. We're going on vacation together. It's like, okay, do you want to go have lunch then?
Yeah.
And they weren't like, okay, they were like, they were concerned, but they never abandoned me. So it was like, okay, there's like 2, 3 people in this world that still love me.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot to know.
Yeah. Having the people in your life that don't try to make you feel bad for your decisions, but instead are like, I'm here for you in whatever decision you're deciding. And maybe they give you their opinion about what they see, but it's never a forced, like, you're an idiot because you're staying with him, or why are you going back? Like, I understand why some people hit that point and need to set the boundary, but for if loved ones are listening that have a friend or a family member going through this yo-yo with somebody, for me, the biggest supportive thing that my friends did were just like, we're here for you no matter what. We love you. Like, how can we help? Whether I was trying to leave or trying to stay, and sharing with me what they saw happening to me. Like, I see you changing. I see you losing yourself. I support you in your decisions, but this is what I see. And it didn't feel like pressure. It just felt like truth.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was a game changer. It's not that they were like, yeah, 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 stay with him. No, it was like, no, this isn't good. I'm worried about you, but you can still call me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that helped because I always say I crawled out of that relationship. Like I didn't, it took every ounce of strength and energy within me, but it isn't that I walked out with my head tall. No, 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 no. I crawled out of there, like helped by my brother and his wife. Like they literally like almost they were like my crutches at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I crawled out of there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's completely okay. I don't think very many people actually walk out of there with their head high and everything perfect. No, you find the one way it works for you, and that's the best way. There is no right, there is no wrong. For me, when it comes to abusive relationship, all these rules about like the way you should break up or this or the conversations you should have go out of the window.
Yeah.
I remember the day I broke up with him, my head was saying to me, he would yell, he would call me shallow, that I give up quickly, all this. And I was like, just nod, don't respond. Just nod, don't respond, don't engage.
Yeah.
Don't engage. You know your truth. And that's like, I kept on repeating it in my head over and over and over and over again. He would yell and he would blame and he would everything. And I was just like, you know your truth and he doesn't need to understand your truth. And that got me out of there.
And he won't understand your truth.
He
That's
will.
the trap we get into, is we try to make them understand. But
Yeah.
they're not there to understand. They're there for control. They're there to get their validation, control us. Like, they don't give a fuck. And so
Yeah.
the more that we try to explain why we love them, but we have to leave, or, why this is not healthy and you're doing something that's healthy for yourself, like, you could be speaking a different language. So for you to not engage, because when we engage, we're feeding the beast, whether
Yeah.
we're engaging thoughtfully and rationally, or we're engaging, telling him how much of a piece of shit he is, like, whatever engagement, all they want is the response.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it won't get you anywhere. It
No.
won't. Now I really read every single article on the internet about, and I remember it was make a 2-week plan, make this, and I made a 2-week plan that became 2 days. Like, and I felt bad, like, oh my God, how manipulative I am. I'm making a plan to leave this person, but like it was the only way, because your lives are so intricate that you have to slowly remove yourself so they don't notice. And I didn't get the chance to do that. Like, I was like in and out. In 2 hours, I moved myself out, and it's something that I still don't feel proud about, but I accepted that it's like that was the way it had to happen.
Yeah.
In 2 hours, a few suitcases, friends packed me up and moved me out.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, that wasn't the last time we talked. That wasn't the last time there was engagement. It still went on after that, but it was definitely what I needed to do. It was that first step of like walking away and being separated physically, having created this like rupture of saying this is done.
Yeah. Yeah. You choosing to remove yourself from an unsafe situation.
Yeah.
And that's the first like proof that we give ourselves that we matter to ourselves, whether we feel it at the time or not. But it's like, I respect myself enough to remove myself because I don't feel safe. I know this is not healthy. I need to get out. And I think of, a lot of us want that conscious uncoupling that we hear about, which is just not possible with somebody who's abusive. Like you will never ever get the conversation or the apology or the agreement, and so for you to feel bad is such a normal response to something that you wish could have been different, because in your mind you're capable of that, and in his mind he's not.
Yeah. And that's it was pretty, like, I remember like the first text messages after and everything, it sounded very much like as if he was taking responsibility, but I kept on rereading them and rereading the same message. And the first time I was like, that's a very sweet message. Second time I was like, something doesn't feel quite right. And by the third or fourth time I was like, you're basically blaming me in a very, very nice and polite way for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that you share that wasn't like you move out and it was over. Like there was still some threads to unravel and then cut, right? And still some hope that was there, most likely, of like, maybe this will work out. Talk a little bit about that dance.
So for me, I think at the very beginning, maybe there was maybe this will still work out. But I think for quite a while before the relationship ended, one thing I did, and I took like a manifestation course, certification actually. So you have to do like future self visualizations. And the one thing that came up for me constantly was like, that future self does not exist in this relationship.
Yeah.
Like that person that's smiling and happy and thriving does not exist with this person next to her. So, and at that point, that was like completely separate from me. I did not understand that could be me, but I understood that if I wanted that, it was like separate. So even when we broke up, there was like very clearness of, I don't want to be with him, but there was this, who am I without him? What if I don't find someone else? So like all my fears really came out. And there would be times of that I would go like no contact for a week. And then he would either find a way back or I would. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, and it was a little bit of an on and off for about 2 months, I would say, after that.
Yeah.
Like about 2 months of like, but there would be periods of 2 weeks of no talking, and then boom, again. And every single time that I saw him again, though, it became more and more clear that I did not want to be with him, because even that 1 week of no contact, I had built up a little bit of strength. I had gone out with friends and laughed. I had felt like a glimpse of what my life could be. So that every single time it gave me a little bit more strength. And then I would fall again and I'd be like, oh, no, 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 this is not working. Or
Yeah.
he would start calling me names or this and that. And I do remember that like our last contact, proper last contact that we had, he called me something or abusive or toxic or something. And I snapped. And I grabbed the phone and I yelled. I think I was like, you're the toxic one, you're the abusive one, and I am done. And I hung up the phone and I took a shower. I remember that day so clearly. And I
Yeah.
went and I took a shower. My phone blew up and I ignored it.
Yeah.
But it was like something just in my head went like, no, 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 no. Because I had never at that point, ever, even when I broke up with him, up the way 2 months later, I never had told him that he was the abusive one, that he was the toxic one, or that I believed him to be a narcissist.
Yeah.
I was terrified of telling him that. I was so scared because as a person, and this is also the truth, is he never was physically aggressive with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I later on came to understand that that might have been a future possibility.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I had panic attacks after, not while I was with him, but after, and especially if I ran into him or I saw him, because I think I had to leave him to understand what I had gone through. And my system was like, it was so much so when I would see him, it was like this fear of, oh my God, what if I fall back into this? What if this becomes the rest of my life? What this, that fear started to become, as you say, like bigger. That pain
Yeah.
was bigger than when I was with him. It really outweighed anything that was good being with him.
Yeah. It's like you finally see. And once you see, you can't unsee. Like you see the type of person they are, you see the abuse that's happening. And I think we as women don't categorize abuse unless it is physical in a lot of ways. Because psychological and emotional abuse is not, you can't see the bruises, but it's real and it's really painful and it's insidious to experience. So once you can see him as like the real version of him instead of this facade that he put on during the love bomb phase to like hook you in, it's like, oh fuck, like I cannot go back to that. And then, and I'm curious if this is your case too, but feeling the grief of who I thought he was in my case, and also grieving the woman that I was that allowed that for several years that I was in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember that when the breakup happened and everything, and I would tell the stories. And actually, I'm not always the biggest fan of like ruminating in it, but I think me telling moments and things that had happened to people for them to understand made me realize how insane that was, that I stayed through it.
Yeah.
And then it came this moment, it was like, okay, there's this person that I thought I loved and they don't exist. So who the hell am I grieving?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is painful, to think that you are grieving a figment of your imagination, a ghost. And then you feel stupid, you feel gullible, you feel all these things about yourself. It's like, how did I fall into that?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it really becomes this like kind of like, you have to find compassion, but it's hard in that moment because of all that time they took from you, all that joy they took from you, and that you allowed it to happen.
Yeah. It's hard to see it in hindsight. I know part of the videos that we go through in the course is hindsight is a bitch, right? We're looking at our past with the awareness and the knowing that we have now, and that's not fair. That's not fair to our past self because
Yeah.
she was surviving in the ways that she knew how to survive and with the information that she was allowing herself to see, you know?
Yeah.
I think we turn away from the red flags until we're unable to deny certain things anymore. Because if we allow ourselves to see the red flags, then we have to make a decision. And especially if we have a lot of fear around being alone, that's a very scary decision. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I see some red flags, but I don't know if I'm ready to admit what it is. It's like sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to get to that readiness level of being like, I'm okay to see what this is, and I'm okay to make the shift necessary.
So to add to that, I was with him 9 months, right? 4 months into it, I knew I was in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So it took me another 5. It took me more time of my relationship to get out, like more than half of it,
Yeah.
like to get out. And that's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I remember the day I walked up to my brother and I sat down and we're talking and I couldn't hold back tears or anything. And I'm like, I think I'm in an abusive relationship. And that was the first time I admitted it. But then, you cover it all up again.
Yeah.
And that's hard because like I look back, I'm like, why didn't I walk away then? Like it was only 3-4 months in. Because he was still giving me, at that point, I would have to say he was still giving me very good moments and very
Mhm.
bad. It was not at all similar towards the end.
Yeah. And one of the women that I've interviewed on this podcast, she went through some very severe post-separation abuse. And she talks about like the love bomb phase, you're in euphoria. And she's like, you would be stupid to walk away from something that feels that good.
Yeah.
And when something is that good, when you have the downfall, you know that the up is coming because that's how low the lows are and how high the highs are. So you're like waiting for that fix.
Yes.
So it's hard to give ourselves compassion in that like, again, when I'm looking at it now, I know I could have left then and saved myself a lot of pain. But for whatever the reason, whatever the learning, whatever the lesson, whatever your exact journey was, you had to go through for the full 9 months. And you had to get to the point where then you were like, okay. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, yes, it now in hindsight as well, the one thing I can say, it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't wish it upon anyone.
Yeah.
Wish I could have gotten to where I am right now in a different way. Probably yes, but I can understand that right now where I am with this lifeline, whatever you want to call it, that had to happen to me in order to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you left and you decided you wanted support, what was the motivation for starting the group with me?
So I left in November and I contacted you in December. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just on Instagram, to be honest, and I was watching everybody talking about narcissism. Like I'm trying to understand it, that obsessive mind, just going from the obsessive of like trying to maintain everything with him. Now I had to put my energy somewhere else. And I came across you. And I was also reading a lot of articles. And a lot of articles were like, how long does it take to get over a narcissist, right? The how-to articles are my favorites. So
Yeah. Tell me how to do it. Yeah.
please, like how please. I need certainty. I needed certainty, I think. So
Yeah.
so I was like, and it was like 6 months to a year to this. And I came across you and you were like, you were offering the free session to like get to know you because you had an offer and everything. And I was like, I'm just gonna try this. Like I just know that I need to be over him. Like I wanna live. I wanna have a life that makes me happy because and I always have to say it's like I was hopeless in a relationship at the end. And it wasn't suicidal, but it was like if I could go to sleep for a month, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Like that's how it felt. Like I wanted a break.
Yeah.
And when I broke up with him, it was like I want to live life again. Like I want to heal. I don't want this to happen to me ever again. I don't want to feel like this ever again. And I want to be in a place where I can find someone, where I can connect with someone uh, healthy, in a healthy level. And that was what I wanted. Like I needed the pain to stop because the pain was unbearable. And that's, I think, no one tells you this. You think like, oh, you walked out of an abusive relationship, it gets better after that. No, there will be days and nights where the only thing you can do is cry and it just won't stop.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I needed the pain to end And I came across you and I was like, okay, I really like her. I came across a bunch of people that talk about this topic, but like, I really liked your energy and everything. So I got on that call and everything that you said resonated. I knew that you really understood what I was going through. You had a lot of compassion, but you were also pushing me to see that there was a different way of doing things, that there is hope, that there is a future, that this didn't have to be the rest of my life, that this didn't have to be continuing the same pattern over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And making that decision, right? It's a time investment, it's a financial investment, it's an energy investment. Like when you were in the group, what stood out to you as like, oh, this is different, or this is helping me change, like being able to see actual change in your life?
I think what I like a lot about the way you work, and it's how I like now do my daily life, how I go on the things, is you combine the knowledge, the factual knowledge, and then in the group, in our sessions, you bring in the body, the emotions, the feeling. And that helped me a lot. Like, okay, I have this knowledge, I understand it, but obviously we have responses that just happen. There's no way to talk yourself out of them, but you have to feel yourself through them, right? To feel them, you have to understand them, you have to have compassion. So for me, that combination of having the videos that we go through and the knowledge, like learning new things, like, oh, like I now live by my values, my wants, my needs, and my non-negotiables. That's
Yeah.
like the basis of everything for me now.
Yay.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yay.
And that, but then having the group, and also it being a group of women that have been through similar situations and that are going through similar things at the time, it's very nice to be held and seen by other women that understand. Because I think a really hard part is that as much as your friends want to understand, they can't.
Yeah.
If you've not been through this, it is almost impossible to understand, because I once upon a time was a person that hadn't gone through an abusive relationship, and I would have never understood this without having gone through it. So to be seen, held, and definitely heard and said, I see you, Silvana. Your feelings are right. Your feelings are valid, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because for a time being, I needed that. And that was healing in itself,
Oh yeah.
because I
Yeah.
did not receive that in my relationship.
Right. I talk a lot about the container, the group container being like this perfect practice ground to learn what a healthy relationship is. So balancing like you and the other girls having equal time to talk and be seen and be heard and not be judged and not say something and then have someone come back and be like, you're stupid, or that was, how could you think that? It's so healing to experience not only other women in the same boat, but what a healthy dynamic looks like, and being able to speak your truth and set boundaries and, take up space. Take up space is huge for a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
So
And I think I think we all struggled a little bit with the taking space in my
yeah,
group.
yeah,
And it was nice. And it was nice to see also the fact that you set your boundary. You say, hey, this is what I feel comfortable with. This is what I need today. This is what I really don't want feedback today, because I think that was also amazing, to just having a space to talk freely without judgment.
yeah. And to be seen in your emotion. Like I remember there were a few times when we were processing, that we were tapping and processing through the feeling and like letting yourself cry or letting yourself be angry, and that being okay, like having a safe way to be able to do that and be witnessed in that. Because I know a lot of women, when we feel something that's not happy, we're like, I have to do it in private. I have to go like have my ugly cry by myself. I can't let anyone know I did it. And just that vulnerability of like, this is me in my rawest state, and today I can't even get words out because I just need to cry. Like, perfect. Bring that to the group. Like that is the healing.
Yeah, because you didn't have it in a relationship. And many times I don't think family and friends can really hold that space for you as
Yeah.
well as that group. And it was a group that had boundaries and everybody came in with the same agreement, which we sometimes don't always have with friends and family
Mhm.
who are trying to always do their best. It's
Right.
just like, this was a very good place for me to learn to create that as well for someone else.
Yeah. Which then when you get to practice and build up this awareness and strength on your own within the group, then you get to bring these skills into dating and into a new relationship. So talk a little bit about that transition of what it's been like to jump back in the dating pool.
It's been interesting. I'm not going to say like, yay, it's the most fun thing ever. No, we all
Yeah.
know that dating has its ups and downs and has its moments where you're like, what the hell is this happening? But having all these new tools for me, and just like one last thing about, for me, having had that bad relationship, that extremely bad relationship, made me be more aware of my patterns that in other times before had come up, but like in little ways and never exploded into a toxic relationship. So this time I was like faced with all these, which are my patterns, which are the things I am allowing, which are the things where I'm not showing up correctly. And I was like faced with them so big that I was like, okay, I really have to work on this if I plan to have a partner that is healthy and that feels good. So, and that is like what I say is kind of the blessing in disguise,
Mhm.
because I had to face them.
Yeah. Sometimes we need that. I call my experience like a bitch slap from the universe. That was like I don't wish that experience and that pain on anybody, but it snapped me out of my codependency and my people pleasing and my turning a blind eye to abusive behavior like very quickly. And I wish I could have learned that lesson, slower without the intensity, but I needed that to wake up.
Yeah.
And I think if that's your truth also, like
Yeah.
then once you wake up, how are you going to stay awake?
Yeah. And that's where I love the values, wants, needs, and non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing when I went into the dating life, again, that was like, I had my list.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. This isn't a list. Like, I love some people make these lists like, oh, I want a doctor with a house and a dog. And I'm like, no, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like really knowing who you are, what you want, and what you need. And that really helped me when, even like many times people, I'm one of the very few single people to surround my friends and everybody. So everybody's like, oh, I just want to meet this guy, meet this guy, meet this guy. And I used to be the girl that said yes to everybody. It's like, okay, one date isn't bad. Let's just see. And the one thing that really changed for me was like at the beginning, they would tell me about something like, oh yeah, and I would get all excited. And I was like, okay, wait a second. But this person loves to go to bars every single weekend and drink, which is nothing wrong. It's just not my lifestyle. Or this person wants to do this all the time. And I'm like, okay, wait, these people are really not aligned with who I am and what I want to do. So that was like the first thing that changed for me, which was like I created a pre-filter. I didn't just say yes to every single person,
Yeah.
because I do think that out there in the dating world, they kind of tell us like, go out there and date as many people as you can. Yes, you should go out there and date. But that was like the first thing. You don't have to go on a date with every single person that someone introduces you to. Like if your gut feeling says no, there's a reason.
Yes.
If it's like, nah, not really feeling it, then don't go for it.
Yeah. And having dating be your intention showing up to dating is like, this is what I have to bring to the table. I want to see what you have to bring to the table. And then is this compatible instead of I'm here, please choose me.
Exactly.
Like knowing what you're looking for, knowing the type of person who's going to align in your life and make a relationship more easeful is like it will save you so much time because a lot of us choose men based on wants, right? The doctor with the house.
Yeah,
And then we have some, hot sex for 3 months and go on some trips and then realize that we have nothing in common. And then
exactly.
here we are back to square one. Like, and sometimes we keep choosing men based on those things instead of like, oh, do we share similar values? Does he have kids? Is kids a non-negotiable for me? Like So yes, help giving yourself like the backboard, I call it, to bounce them off of and like, is this gonna work or not? Because otherwise you just let everybody in.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then you're all confused too, because
Yeah.
you're like spreading yourself very thin, trying to date so much. And for me, like you said, for me, kids is a non-negotiable. So
Mhm.
that's like, it's like on top of my mind. I don't bring it up maybe on the first date, but it's like, it's very clear. And it's something that you need to know, and you need to know your values and also how the person is showing up, right?
Yeah.
How does it feel? Like, the
Yeah.
one thing I can always say about my ex is like, I was always anxious since day zero.
Yeah.
And that matters. Like, you know, like, you know, but sometimes you're denying certain red flags.
Yeah.
But I also think you don't have to go to this extreme, because at the very, very beginning, because I said I wouldn't date for like 6 months, and I really took that serious. But I would see red flags in everybody around me.
Yeah.
I was dating, like even friends, like, this, that person, because you go to the extreme. So the first thing I actually did after a while was like, I stopped following all the accounts talking about narcissism, abusive relationships, and that, because you do start putting too many people because of one little trait or one little behavior into that box, because you're so terrified. You're really trying to protect yourself from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really interesting. So I really cleaned out my social media from that, and I focused more on like, what do I want rather than what do I not want.
Yes. Yeah, being discerning is important, right? When you see a red flag, it's like, "Oh, is that a trait of theirs or something that they're doing repeatedly? Or is that like one time they were selfish and I'm categorizing as a narcissist?" So, yeah, being again, not swinging too far to the other side, but paying attention to the feeling is so important because our bodies are talking to us all of the time. And especially when you're in a situation that is familiar and you get that familiar like tightness in your chest or lump in your throat or butterflies in your stomach. It's like, what is that saying? Just stopping long enough to be curious about, when did I feel this before? What is the sensation saying? Like, do I feel safe with this person or is something off?
And I think that's where you need to take it slow, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, with a narcissist or love bomber, like, they don't give you time to breathe, think, evaluate.
Yeah.
And what helps me a lot is like having time in between dates, having distance, having space, because a healthy relationship is two people that feel fully healthy, complete within themselves, coming together and
Yeah.
adding to each other's lives, not filling a void, not giving you the love that you're lacking for yourself. So for me, that's always really important. When I go back and I sit, I'm like, okay, does that really bother me? Or is this something like that I was told it should bother me? Because also, I am still working on undoing past beliefs, because I was always told, like, if a guy likes you, he's basically going to text you every single day. Da, da, da. And yes, of course, if a guy likes you, he needs to be there. He needs to be attentive. He needs to text you, but he doesn't need to text you all day long. He doesn't
Yeah.
need to tell you you're beautiful the entire time. He doesn't need to send you flowers. And it's okay for him to have a bad day.
Yeah.
All day. Like, you can't judge a person into for 1 day or 2 days. And I
Yes.
think I have learned that I'd rather have a person that is sincere, honest, is attentive, is there, but is not love bombing me. Because I know that usually that probably means they have a very anxious tendency. Just the way I am an anxious attachment, and I keep on working and I have very secure moments, but it does flare up. It does come up. And then I have to hold myself back from it. Like, okay, no, you're not going to go anxious on him. Like,
Hmm.
what's really happening here?
Yeah.
Like, even if they are pulling back, you don't have to go and like go after them. Like, you really have to say, okay, they're pulling back, but why am I feeling this? And that's where I say I use a lot of the combination of the factual and the feeling. So sometimes I'm dating someone right now. It's been like maybe 2 months. And it's very interesting, because sometimes I get anxious because I read into 3, 4 messages a little bit much. And then I like start getting anxious and I start making up all these stories. And then I'm like, okay, wait, facts. What are the facts? We're stalking every day. We're messaging. he's being attentive, he's being nice, a little bit less, but that doesn't mean something, like it doesn't, I don't have to read into it. So I like look at the facts, and then but there's days where it does trigger me incredibly. My little girl, my little inner girl is triggered into feeling this fear of being abandoned. So sometimes I do have to sit there, and sometimes I cry, and I'm just like, I will be here for you. If he leaves, it's okay. Like I have to validate her fear that he might leave, because like he might just decide to ghost you. Like you never know. You don't know really what's going to happen, but it's like holding myself in that. And that combination of having the facts sometimes, because it really helps me with like bringing down the anxiety.
Yeah.
And also like that's a made up story. Like that makes no sense.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's been really interesting for me to like hold the spaces. And also after a toxic relationship, you will get really random triggers.
Yeah.
Like just yesterday, I was triggered immensely by something that he was doing. And I was like, what the hell, Silvana? Like, stop. And I just sat there and I breathed in and I breathed out a few times. And then I realized that he was doing something that my ex would do in order to cheat, lie, and everything to me. So I'm like, okay, I cannot associate that behavior like to him now. Like he's done nothing to deserve that. But I was being extremely triggered.
Yeah.
And I had to breathe through it for a few moments and be like, yeah, that person doesn't deserve this from me right now. Like,
Yes.
and that's the hard part, realizing that you have these triggers that are even new. They might not be from all past relationships, it's from this relationship, and you're just starting to date new people. So they're just showing up now. You're just right now learning to deal with them for the
Yeah.
first time.
First of all, I want to say how proud I am of you, because what you're describing is what you've learned in how to disrupt the pattern.
Yeah.
When you can identify that you're triggered and not reflexively do the behavior that you always do when you're triggered, like reach out to him anxiously or ask for validation or whatever, but instead sit with your little girl and be like, what do I actually need? Like, what is actually this feeling that's happening? And letting the feeling move through, letting yourself come to the conclusion of like, okay, I really just need to know that I'm going to be okay, even if he doesn't text me back for another hour. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that process needs to be so intentional and so repetitive as you're learning new patterns. Because if you think about having practiced one anxious attachment for however many years, it's very ingrained and our brains like efficiency. So we have grooved that path. Like that's the easy sled. Okay. So it takes the effort to pick up the sled and move it to another part on the hill and like start a new route. But that's how you make change. That's how you see yourself show up differently in relationships. So congratulations on doing the work and not just understanding what you need to do, but doing what you need to do in order to experience different love.
Yeah. And yesterday, I think I was the most impressed with myself because it was like in person happening, like real time. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is weird. This is happening. Why am I so triggered?
Yep.
He's completely clueless on his end,
Yeah.
which is funny. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to associate this to him because like this person has done nothing. Like if there was red flags, obviously, but this
Yeah.
person has done nothing to deserve that.
Yeah.
So it was really like, it's really enlightening for me to like sit there. I was like, okay, I can feel my way through this without it having to become an issue, a fight, or anything.
Yes.
And like I stopped the drama, I stopped the need, not I don't like saying neediness, but the anxiousness over something. And I realized that it was me.
Yeah.
Because I do believe it's also important to obviously, this is the other thing when like dating comes, like if you do have needs, as we've discussed many times, you do have to bring them up. Like again, this is something I've had to unlearn from the past, is that the guy's just going to show up and he's just going to leave you love notes everywhere, and he's just going to bring you roses, and he's just going to bring you chocolates if he really wants to be with you.
Yeah.
Well, if he doesn't know that that's what you like he can't know. And I think there is nothing more beautiful than you letting a person know what you would like or what you would need and them doing it for you.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
know my
instead of going like,
readers.
I had to tell him in order for him to like, and he did it. Isn't that like the most beautiful thing there is?
Yeah. Yes.
That part has been really new for me, like communicating, being very vulnerable and really, really explaining why that's a need.
Mhm.
Like why when you didn't call me when you said you didn't call, why that hurt me so much. Like because sometimes to that person it's all the same if you call them at 3, 4, 5, whatever time you said, and you called them 2 hours later, it's the same to them, but to you it might not be the same.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to communicate. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them like a guy that doesn't care. It's learning about that we are all different, that we're not the same, like love languages and
Yeah.
all that. Like I have really had to learn that each person shows how they care differently and learn to appreciate it. And then it's like, okay, what do I still need beyond that?
Mhm.
I do need like a good morning text. Like I really like that. It makes me feel really appreciated.
Yes. Which
And
is
that
where, yeah.
no, you go.
Well, where it's or why it's so important to understand yourself first
Yeah.
before you get into the relationship so that you can bring yourself and your full self into the relationship and express when things are triggering you or what you need or when something feels off. But if you haven't taken that time to identify who you are, again, you're just going to sort of like mold into the person, and that's not a healthy dynamic because resentment grows when we don't have boundaries around ourselves.
Yeah. And not just that, not just mold into the person, or you go completely by what other people tell your relationship should look like,
Uh-huh.
or what you should want in a relationship, instead of wanting what you want, what you need. Because there's things that some of my friends want from their guys. And I'm like, it could be all the same to me. And
Yeah.
there's stuff that my friends are completely okay with. I was like, no, I would not put up with that. That's not okay with me. And both are okay with, as long as it's not controlling.
Yeah.
So both are okay. It's like learning to be yourself again. So who am I is answered a lot in those values, wants, needs, and non-negotiables. And not just like, it doesn't just answer it for your relationships, but for you as a person in general.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And doing the healing work by yourself first to build that foundation, I believe is very important. But then when you're in a relationship, new triggers come up, new experiences come up that show you whole other layers of things that you can tend to, or that, beliefs that you've had that you didn't, maybe you wouldn't have arisen by yourself. And
Yeah.
so continuing on this journey, it's a lifelong journey of understanding who we are and how to tend to ourselves. We don't get to the like, all right, I spent 6 months by myself and I'm healed and now I can be in a healthy relationship and it's going to be perfect. And like, no, that's not.
And, and it wasn't even like I said 6 months, and I did like meet a few people there. But even then, I was like, you know what? I am too quickly activated still. I'm too quickly anxious. So I need more space. I
Yeah.
still need to work more on that. So I
Yeah.
did give myself like a time frame because I didn't want to fall into my patterns. But
Yeah.
even after that, it wasn't like a hard rule. Oh, at 6 months, I'm dating again. No, it still took, and to be honest, like dating kind of just happened.
Yeah.
I didn't really go out there looking for it. It kind of just started happening for me, and it felt good, and it felt safe, and it felt slow. Some people would be like, just go out, sleep with a guy, like just own your goddess and this. And I'm like, that's not me, but it works for some people and they
Yeah.
should do that. And I think that just wasn't me at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's just been dating for me. It's like a little dance,
Mhm.
it's like a little dance, and it's like two people giving a little bit and then seeing how that feels. And like a friend the other day said to me, it's like one of us puts the foot in the water, and I'm like, okay, how does it feel? Okay, no, this was a bit too scary. I'll take a step
Yeah.
back. I'll wait a second. How is this received? Oh, okay, this is received fine.
Mhm.
And that's dating. It's like being vulnerable, and being vulnerable is always going to be scary. like it is a courageous thing to do, but it isn't, again, something you just do walking up with your head held high.
Yeah.
No, the word vulnerable in itself means that it's going to be something that's difficult.
Yeah.
But it's in that difficult situations and in those difficult conversations that you grow and you learn more about yourself and what you want even more. Because I did start with a list of wants, needs, non-negotiables, and it has changed and evolved. Not that I changed it for that person or anything, but it's like, wait, this is what I thought my entire life I wanted, but I actually don't want that.
Yeah.
I actually don't like that. Or I thought I wanted this, but no, that doesn't work. Or I actually do want this, which I had put just like in a want, but it's actually a need for me. Like you start moving it around and it needs to feel good to you. It needs to feel safe to you. And I think that's the most important part when it comes to dating. The person you are dating should be a safe place for you, should be someone that, like, yes, they should excite you. I don't think it has to be fully boring the way
No.
they're marketing it lately. It should be exciting, but it shouldn't have highs and lows. It should be like a steady excitement. And it should be this little by little. It's not all in 100% day one. It's slowly and it's growing, because that's how my past relationships were. So this time I'm like, I want to go slower. I want to slow down. And there's actually been times where like the guy is like, and I'm like, ooh, that's too fast.
Yeah.
Or usually I in the past would have been like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And this time I was like, okay, wait. Like
Mhm.
I need to think about this.
Yeah.
And to have healed that much where I can say, okay, I'm going to think about this without the fear of losing the person.
Yeah.
Because that's our fear. That's why we jump in, because we
Yep.
think the quicker, the faster, the better. But it's not usually the case. It works
Mhm.
for some again. But for me, it's been very enriching and changing to meet guys, talk to them, and get back after the first date and be like 50% yes, 50% no. So I'm going to give him a second date. Or come home and be like 100% not for me, but great person, just not for me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's really important, to give yourself the time after a date and not get overexcited. Even if you have a really amazing first date, like bring it down. We're all on our best behavior on the first date.
Yeah. And to your point about going slow, also in sharing our vulnerabilities, it's like that person needs to earn the trust to know those things about us. So in the past where we might have like divulged our entire trauma history on the first date, it's like, oh, I'm going to share something that doesn't feel like a gem of mine, doesn't feel like a really, you know, really, really special thing, just to see how it goes. I'm going to share, something that's a little less vulnerable, but still vulnerable, see how they react, allow them to share something. And it's like steps that you take together.
Yeah.
And even if the relationship, like you're feeling really excited and it's passionate and like all those things can exist, and you can take it slow in sharing your soul, because I think that's where sometimes we get mistaken, where it's like I have to dive all the way in and keep him, like you said, like sort of like make him believe that I'm everything he wants. And it's like, no,
Exactly.
you get to show who you truly are, and then if that's aligned, you guys keep going. Like
Yeah. And as you said, I love that it can exist. The excitement, the passion that, oh my God, I really, really like this person. I really connect with them. But as I said, like you throw in like it's just like a little basket and everybody puts like a little pebble, like, okay,
yeah,
here's one piece of me. How
yeah,
does it take that? Do I feel safe when I shared this? Okay. And as you get to know each other, so trust isn't given. And I like that you said that, because it's in toxic relationships, it tends to be like you bond over your toxic past, your traumatic past in some way, and that becomes the whole relationship.
yeah,
And that becomes the reason you stay together, and you give everything at the beginning. And I think that's also a big important piece. It's like, after a toxic relationship, it took me so much work to build the life I have, to feel the way I feel, that I have been really careful to, even though I feel a lot of excitement, to maintain this beautiful life that I've created, to see my friends, to talk to my friends, to not make one person my everything. because I don't think that's ever healthy at any point. I think there will be things that is better discussed with a girlfriend. There will be things that's better discussed with your mom or with your brother. And then slowly that person obviously becomes more of your life, but keeping and maintaining this amazing life that you've created once you've healed, while you healed, is so important, because it also validates who you are and your worth, and it helps you to hold up your boundaries, your values, and your non-negotiables.
Yeah, fucking mic drop, Silvana. Like, yes, yes to all of that. I love, yeah, I love everything that you said, and your willingness to, again, do something different, even in the fear, even in the moments of like feeling like you're going to lose your shit because your anxiety is high or whatever it is. Like, you continuing to show up is so, it's so powerful, and it shows other people that it's possible.
It
So
is. I didn't think it was here.
yeah, me
Really,
neither. And
I
look at
didn't
us
think it
now.
was. Didn't think it was. It was possible to like heal, feel good, feel connected to someone again, feel safe in someone's place, to have a good life, to be worthy of anything. And now it's like, well, duh.
Yeah, I love it. I like to end these by pulling a card. If you
Oh,
are open to helping me choose a card,
yes.
I'll just have you bring your eyes to a close like normal. Just take a deep breath. If there's any intentions or thoughts you have for the deck, just sharing that in your mind now. And then whenever you feel like the shuffle's complete, just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, what do we get? Oh, elevator to your deep heart. Can you see it?
Yeah.
I'm going to read it for everybody here in case that message resonates. Oh, if I can find it. Okay, elevator to your deep heart invites you to take a slow ride down to the deepest part of your heart, the place where pure love lies, descending into that warm, accepting, all-encompassing heart space, the place where you originated and where you will always find love. This perspective shift is needed now, especially if you are feeling depleted, lonely, scared, or unloved. This card compels you to sink into the place of divine love that exists inside. To journey to the sacred space, close your eyes and imagine you are stepping into a beautifully adorned elevator, which with each breath that you exhale, feel yourself slowly descending deep inside to the center of your heart space. 10, 9, 8. When you reach your destination and the doors open, notice what your senses take in as you explore this sacred and safe space. When you are ready and have soaked up all that you need, step back into the elevator and slowly return to the present space. Know that you can access this rich, pure, infinitely loving space anytime you need to.
That's really beautiful.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Also in line with what we're talking about today. Yeah, always, always, always. Well, Silvana, thank you so, so much. How can people find you if they want to check out your messaging, your coaching, all the things?
They can find me on Instagram, Silvana Dargo. And yeah, I'm there. That's mainly where I am.
Okay, beautiful. Well, the links for everything will be in the show notes. And if this episode resonated for you, share with a girlfriend who might be going through a similar healing journey as Silvana. And if it landed for you, give us a like and follow the podcast page to help other people find this information. Thank you, sister. It's been such a joy walking with you through your journey, and I'm so fucking proud of you.
Thank you. You've been the best person to be along this journey. So thank you so much.
Until next time, everyone. A reminder that enrollment is happening now through January for my group coaching container, Becoming, and there's only 4 spaces available. If you want to submit your interest form, please go to briewolta.com/becoming. You can also click through the link in the show notes.